The idea that you can just coast through retirement with no real effort is simply misguided.
As a matter of fact, it takes much more than effort to achieve progress and happiness in retirement. It takes effective effort, which is different than effort.
Today, we're going to share with you 6 key elements that effective effort requires.
Now, we're all familiar with George Washington, and he led the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War.
Mark has been reading up on history.
I have. I've been reading some great history books. Now, his opponent, the Brits, two things. They had greater resources, and they had more soldiers and better trained soldiers.
But George used what we're going to call today,
General George.
General George used what we're going to call today effective effort to achieve his long-term goal of winning the war and gaining independence. He went into each battle hoping to win,
Sure.
with a strategy to win. But when things didn't work out, he regrouped, he retreated sometimes.
And then, when all else failed, he created a new strategy. And he set a new short-term goal, and then he attacked again. He did this for 8 years, and he finally won. He never gave up.
So let's first define effort and effective effort. Effort is something you've used, the word you've used kind of your whole life, whether you're an athlete or in business or perhaps maybe even in retirement. And effort is really the vigorous or determined attempt at something.
And there's probably different levels of effort. A little bit of effort, a little more effort, but it doesn't mean you're really going to get it done. And today we want to talk to you about effective effort. And that really requires a new lens on a challenge, a problem, or a goal. General George Washington used effective effort to win the war.
Effective effort requires not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 key elements in order to accomplish it. So I want you to really think about this and what it means to you. The first element is pure reflection. What are you trying to accomplish? Why is it important to you? And how will it make your life better?
And those are heavy questions.
They are.
But really the important thing is when you have an idea to set a goal or a vision or whatever it is, if it's not important to you, it's not going to work.
But at this stage of your life, those are questions that while they're heavy, they can apply to anything and everything you're doing.
What we don't want you to do in this retirement phase is just to avoid some hard work and effort because
effective effort
because it is work. But the second thing you want to do is baseline. So where am I now?
With your goal, where are you?
With your goal,
right.
Whether it's losing weight or eating better or
relationships,
winning a marathon, where are you now? If you've never run a marathon before, certainly want to start off running a 5K.
No, I'm glad you said 5K.
Not 3K, like I said before.
When we were practicing, Mark made up race lengths.
Where am I now? What are my obstacles? What resources do I need? What resources do I have? And what's the first step that I need to take?
And that one's really important, though. What resources do you need? We can all make that list, but take inventory on what resources you have in order to utilize to get there, right?
I mean, if you want to run a marathon, you need sneakers. Sneakers.
I think they're called running shoes.
Running shoes, okay, and socks.
The third thing you need is clear goals. Now, you heard that all through your career. You may have heard it all through your life. You may have heard it on any sports teams.
And hopefully you've made them,
So clear goals, but you need them to be short-term and long-term. Within the goals, you need to have a bigger kind of step back and say, what's my vision? And more importantly than any of that, what's the timeline for this? General George Washington didn't want to fight that fight any longer than he had to, but he had a timeline for each of the battles. And finally, big thing for us, you want to make a declaration. So you have your goals, and then you want to declare it out loud.
And we've done a whole session on this on YouTube on making a declaration, and it's such an important part of having successful retirement, having goals, making sure they happen.
Right.
Because if you just keep it to yourself, if you decide, well, this is what I'm going to do, and you don't tell anybody at all, the chance of it happening or not happening, the chance of it happening is slim to none. I think 80% of people that make New Year's resolutions
A
stop.
private New Year's resolution.
They stop.
Yeah, they don't.
And we've
accomplish
had success with our goals and our achievements and where we're going in our retirement because we declare it, not just to each other, but it's amazing. You should watch this other YouTube video. We'll put the link in the bottom because it helps give you some clarity on the success you can have when you not only state it out loud, but start telling people, because then it just starts to happen.
But let's get back to effective effort.
Let's do that. The fourth is milestones. You know, if you can set some milestones, you know, week to week, month to month, whatever it is, it really does help you stay on track. And as you move from one milestone to the next, it gives you a little burst of energy, like, wow, I was able to do that. So it does give you a little bit of happiness as you're going along. So it's important to have milestones that make sense.
And it's important, I think, although you took it out of our little discussion today,
What's
I think
that?
it's important to celebrate your milestones, not just your overall. But the fifth component is the ability to change course. You know, we talked about General George Washington and going into battle and winning some and losing some and regrouping. It's really important at this phase of your life that you assess when it's time to change course. I think it's one of the most critical components of effective effort. You know, you're going to fail. Once you learn from that and adapt, move forward. Once you succeed, also learn from that. Find a success pattern and move forward with that.
And the sixth and last step really is celebration. It is so important. And you mentioned that a minute ago.
With the milestones, but you're talking about your overall.
Yeah, so whatever your thing is, you know, for me, you've heard this before, my vision of being physically independent to the age of 90, that doesn't just happen by itself. And I have little wins and I have little setbacks, but every time I do a little bit better exercise or we, you know, our whole nutrition thing now is really changed dramatically. We are really making some huge steps in that area, and we celebrate. We celebrate, you know, stop eating. I don't eat potato chips anymore at lunch. There, I said it out loud. I used to.
It's been 3 days.
It's been 3 days,
Okay.
but I don't,
No.
and I'm celebrating that, and I'm
Right.
getting used to that, and I'm telling other people, and some of them look at me like I got, you know, two heads, but you know, this whole thing is about living the most amazing retirement ever, and we have to make sacrifices, and we have to
Absolutely.
celebrate our wins along the way. So we definitely do that.
So, you know, just to kind of sum it up, you know, we're all familiar with the term effort, but we now hope you know how to convert effort into that little bit extra, which we call effective effort.
You know, Jody and I do this because it's important for us to live a great retirement. But we also want you to live a great retirement. You know, how do you feel about today's talk? We want you to get this concept and change the landscape for yourself and your family of what's possible. You know, we want you to thrive. Not only do we want you to do well, but we together, the 10,000 people turning 65 every single day, we want to set an example for future generations, for our children, our children's children, and
I think that we have an opportunity as a cohort, right, or as a community to really model what could be better for the future generations. You know, those that come behind us are going to see examples of things we never had a chance to see, and we have the opportunity to do that.
And this is hard. You know, we talked about failure. I think that throughout our career, we both failed a lot and we learned a lot. We got better and better each time. The same thing's going to happen in your retirement. You're going to find times when you have bad days and sad days, but really putting some effort into this.
Effective effort.
Effective effort.
Right.
Really saying, you know what? This is important to me. This is what it's going to do for me. I need to do this for myself
Right.
and my family. And what about you? You know, what are you going to do making the switch from effort to effective effort? Stop making excuses, to really have this vision, to be able to make a declaration. All of that is so important to live this most amazing time of life.
Absolutely. And listen, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below. And finally, please join our free Facebook community. We've got a lot happening in there, and the link is also in the notes below.
Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to being with you again.